Welcome back everyone, something a little bit different today. Thought I'd show you a little issue I've got with the wheel bearing on this. I took it for its MOT, well actually it was last year, I've hardly used it since then. But just put an advisory on this wheel bearing has been a little bit of play in it. I suspect it's just an adjustment that's needed. They are adjustable on Land Rovers. You've got an adjusting nut and a lock nut with a lock washer in the middle. Involves obviously taking the wheel off, taking the hub off, and we'll see what we've got. I've put a clip up trying to illustrate that there is a little bit of movement. It is only a little bit, but you can feel it when you compare it to another wheel. So there's definitely, hopefully only a bit of adjustment needed, and hopefully it doesn't need wheel bearings. But I'll take it off, grease it up, readjust it, see if we can get rid of it and that it all sounds sweet and not grindy and things like that. So here we go. Now, as I'm only checking the adjustment, I'm firstly going to see if I can, which I know I can adjust just by taking this off, without taking the whole assembly off. If it turns out there's something wrong with the wheel bearings, or I think that they need more grease and stuff, then it will be a case of taking the brake caliper off, etc. And it will probably involve bleeding the brakes, unless you can lift the whole assembly away just by loosening that, which you might be able to do. Can't recall if I've ever done that. It was a few years ago when I changed the brake discs and pads, as you can probably tell from the state of the discs. It's only because they don't get used, but they're not really scored or anything, they do work well. So yeah, I'll go ahead, deal with everything I can from this side, pop the wheel back on, see if that works. If not, it's going to be a bit more involved. Blue Loctite all over these from last time. Hate circuits. Being extra careful with this because I don't have any of these spare gaskets at present. So I'll have to reuse this one. I'll just put a bit of gasket sealer where I'm missing bits, and then replace it in the future. They were renewed when I did them before, so should be okay, but we'll see what we've got in terms of adjustment. You'll see you've got the lock washer, which is over this lock nut, and it's also tapped back over the adjusting nut to stop both of them, to stop either of them moving. As you can see, this is your lock nut which is that you do tighten up. I'll put the Torx up in a bit, and then you knock it over the adjusting nut, which you torque up, and then you release a bit to allow your bearings to move freely. But obviously I seem to have a bit too much free play, so that's what we're looking at today. To remove that big nut, after you've knocked off the lock washer, you'll also need a big socket, preferably that you can drive so you can do your Torx, and that's 52mm socket. So I've just removed the lock washer, locking screw, and that was way slacker than it should have been. So everything must have compressed a little bit after I've fitted them before. So I think we will hopefully just be able to adjust it out. It's not done many miles, so I shouldn't have wrecked any wheel bearings or anything. I'll take that off and reuse it. You are meant to replace them, but I'll flatten it back out and reuse. So I have to adjust it to 50 Newton meters or 37 foot-pounds, which isn't a lot. There you go. And it says ensure hub is free to rotate with no bearing play. It's free to rotate. I can't feel any bearing play, but I can't get a lot of leverage on it. Spin it round again. Then it says to back it off 90 degrees and retighten to 7 foot-pounds. So if you start there, to go backwards. Oops. 90 degrees, leave it there, tie into 7 foot-pounds. Can only go to 10 on this, so not very much that at all. Probably feel that by hand. So we'll back it off again. So I'll do it just before it snaps, should be about there. So I've straightened out the lock washer and I'm just putting the lock nut back on. And the lock nut is to be tightened to 37 foot-pounds and stay at 37 foot-pounds. So all we've got to do then is tab this backwards over the adjusting nut and also tab it forwards over the lock nut. Then reinstall the member, drive member, with the gasket. I'll put, like I say, I'll put a bit of gasket seal on for now, and then put the wheel on, and I'll test it for any play, see if there's any play, or whether it's whether that'll be sufficient for now. Has got nearly 100,000 miles on the Land Rover, so it might be that it is getting time for wheel bearings, and if I think it is, I'll ask around a little bit, and I might do the whole thing again, and replace both, just as a service item prior to them going wrong, because when they do go wrong, it's not very good for anything really. Now I've just applied the brake with a bit of wood to hold the hub whilst torquing these up. Right. Right folks, that's all done. Everything back together, torqued up as it should be, brakes off, wheels rotating freely, and then there's no play whatsoever. Now, everything sounds okay, you can just hear the brake dragging a little bit, but other than that, success.